The letters could have destroyed him, but she burned them instead. My name is Eleanor Grace Whitmore. I am 76 years old. For 38 years, I worked as a court clerk in a small town in Maine. I handled legal evidence, affidavits, testimonies, proof of guilt. I understood the power of paper, and that's exactly why I burned it. The winter night. It was the coldest night of December. The kind of cold that makes even silence feel sharp. Snow covered the courtyard in a soft white sheet. The sky was dark blue, almost black. In front of me, a small metal fire pit glowed, orange flames against winter's blue. In my lap, a stack of old handwritten letters, 32 of them, bound with twine. Evidence. The betrayal. No one knew. People believed my husband died honorable. Respected businessman. Community donor. Faithful family man. At his funeral, they called him loyal. I said nothing. Because grief doesn't expose secrets. It buries them. The box in the attic. I found the letters a year after he passed, hidden inside a locked wooden box. I wasn't searching. I was cleaning. But sometimes truth finds you when you're not prepared. The handwriting wasn't mine. The words weren't subtle. Promises, plans, confessions of love. Not written to me. The deeper wound. Infidelity hurts, but deception wounds deeper. The letters weren't recent. They dated back 25 years. 25. That means every anniversary, every holiday, every public smile carried a shadow. The part that shocked me most, I wasn't angry about the affair. I was devastated by the lie. For decades, he let me believe I was safe, that our life was honest. I stood beside him in courtrooms, church gatherings, family dinners, while he lived a second life, just miles away. The proof that could ruin everything. The letters contained dates, financial transfers, property discussions, even mention of a child no one knew about. If I handed those letters to a lawyer, it would have shattered reputations, destroyed inheritances, rewritten history. And I could have, legally, eased the night I considered revenge. For weeks I sat at the kitchen table, reading them, over and over, each sentence like ice water. I imagined exposing him publicly, clearing my name from silent humiliation, letting everyone know I wasn't the fool. But revenge has a taste, and it's bitter even before you swallow it. The decision. That winter night I carried the box outside. Snow fell softly. The courtyard was still. I lit the fire pit slowly, deliberately, not out of rage, out of clarity. The first letter. The paper trembled slightly in my hands. Not from anger. From age. The flames caught quickly. Ink curled into smoke, secrets rising quietly into the sky. No screaming. No tears. Just release. Why I burned them. Because exposing him wouldn't heal me. Because ruining his memory wouldn't restore truth. Because dragging the past into the present would only poison what time had already softened. Dignity is heavier than revenge. But it's cleaner. The child I never knew. Yes, there was a child. A son. Now a grown man somewhere. I could have found him. Confronted him. Demanded answers. But he didn't betray me. His existence wasn't a weapon. It was a consequence. The calm in the flames. One by one, the letters turned to ash. Snow continued falling. The firelight reflected on my face. Not anger. Not heartbreak. Just strength. Restraint is loud inside, but silent outside. The truth I kept. I told no one. Not my children. Not my neighbors. They remember him kindly, and I allowed that. Because my peace was worth more than correction. By morning, the fire pit was cold. Only gray ash remained, proof that once could have destroyed a life. Now gone. And Eleanor Grace Whitmore chose silence. Not because she was weak, but because she was stronger than vengeance. Some secrets die in fire. Some survive in memory. The morning after. The courtyard looked ordinary again. Snow covered the ashes. The fire pit was cold. If someone had walked by, they would have seen nothing unusual. But I knew what had disappeared overnight. Proof, power, and the last temptation of revenge. Life continued quietly. I returned to routine. Morning tea, short walks, occasional visits from my daughter. I never mentioned the letters. Not because I was protecting him, because I was protecting myself. Reopening wounds doesn't make you brave. Sometimes it just makes you tired. The hidden fear. There was one thought that lingered. What if copies existed? My husband had been careful, but careless enough to write. Paper leaves trails, and I had worked in the legal system long enough to know that secrets rarely belong to one drawer. The unexpected call. 3 months later, a lawyer called. His tone was polite, professional. There's a small matter regarding your late husband's estate. My chest tightened. I had reviewed the will before. Everything was clear, or so I thought. The missing property, a piece of land, purchased decades ago, was unaccounted for. Not listed in our shared documents, not mentioned in conversations. Hidden, the lawyer asked gently. Did you know about this? I said no, and that was true, the almost exposure. The land had recently been sold, to a man whose name I didn't recognize, but I felt it. Before confirmation, before proof, I felt it. The child, now grown, now claiming something, not aggressively, not publicly, quietly, the moment of choice again. The lawyer said we could contest it, demand investigation, open financial records, dig deeper. And if we did, everything would surface. The affair, the letters, the decades of deception. The town would know. My children would know. His reputation would fracture. What I realized, I had already burned the evidence, but revenge doesn't need paper. It only needs intention. And I had to decide, again, who I wanted to be, the conversation with myself. That night I sat in the courtyard. No fire this time, just cold air and stillness. I asked myself, would exposing him change my past? Would it give me back those years? Would it restore honesty to memories already lived? No. It would only spread pain forward. The call I made. The next morning, I called the lawyer. Let it go, I said. He sounded surprised. Are you certain? Yes. I was. The land could stay where it was. The truth could remain buried. Not out of weakness, but because I refused to let betrayal define my final chapter. The son I never met. Weeks later, I received a letter. Short, simple, from the man who had purchased the land. He thanked me for not contesting it. He wrote that his mother had passed years ago. He said he never intended harm. And at the bottom, he wrote, I believe you knew. I folded the letter carefully and placed it in a drawer. Not burned, not displayed, just acknowledged. Dignity feels quiet. No one applauded my restraint. No one knew the storm I prevented. But peace isn't loud. It's private. It's the ability to sleep without replaying anger. The truth hovered at the surface, close enough to reveal, close enough to destroy. But Eleanor Grace Whitmore chose silence again, not because she was afraid, but because she understood that dignity outlives scandal. Some truths shout, some whisper, and some are buried with the only person strong enough to carry them. The winter she didn't survive. I passed away quietly in late January. No drama, no scandal, no revelations. Just a soft morning where the snow kept falling, and my heart decided it had done enough. My children arrived within hours. The house felt smaller without me in it. Stranger, like something invisible had shifted, sorting through a life. They began with the ordinary things. Clothes, cookbooks, old photo albums. My daughter found the drawer in my bedroom desk. Inside was a single envelope, unopened, addressed to no one, just folded carefully. The letter I kept, it was the letter from him. The other son, the one my husband had with another woman, the one I chose never to confront. My daughter read it slowly. Her hands began to shake. The realization. She called her brother into the room. They read the words together. The gratitude. The quiet acknowledgement. The final line, I believe you knew. That sentence said more than paragraphs ever could. The investigation they considered. At first, anger filled the room. How could Dad do this? Why didn't Mom tell us? They called the lawyer. They asked questions. They searched financial records. And slowly, the outline of the betrayal emerged. Not loudly, but clearly, the fire pit. My son stepped into the courtyard. The metal fire pit sat there dusted with snow. Ash still clung faintly to its edges. He touched it. Cold now, empty. He didn't need proof. He understood. She had burned it. She had chosen peace. The hardest truth. What hurt them most wasn't their father's affair. It was my silence. Not because I was weak, but because I carried the truth alone to protect everyone else. They realized something heavy. I could have destroyed his legacy, shattered the town's image of him, divided the family, but I didn't. The visit. 2 weeks later, my children drove to meet the man from the letter, the half-brother they never knew. The meeting was awkward, painful, but not hostile. They saw in him not betrayal, but innocence. He had not chosen his origin. What they finally understood. On the drive home, my daughter whispered, "Mom could have taken everything from him." My son nodded, but she didn't, because dignity doesn't demand applause. It chooses restraint even when revenge is justified. The legacy I left. There was no dramatic will change, no secret fortune, just a modest house, old books, a quiet courtyard, and the lesson that strength is not in exposure, but in control, the final image. That winter evening, my son lit the fire pit again. Not to burn anything, just to sit beside it. Snow fell softly, the flames reflected in his eyes. He finally understood the weight of the decision I made. Peace over vengeance, dignity over destruction. My name was Eleanor Grace Whitmore. I was 76 years old. I worked in the legal system. I understood the power of proof, and I chose not to use it. Final words. Grandma burned a stack of letters one winter night. After her death, they learned those letters proved betrayal. But she chose peace over revenge, because some victories are quiet, and some strength never needs witnesses. YouTube ending as requested. If this story moved you, like this video for every person who chose dignity over revenge. Comment what you would have done in her place. Subscribe for more powerful stories about quiet strength and hidden truths. Because sometimes, the strongest people are the ones who walk away in silence.